Hey guys, welcome to our session number 2 of Lightning Web Component series. So this session is totally focused on templates. So let's go ahead and start. So today's agenda is how we can conditionally render our elements in our template. We'll be looking on that and what is the difference, like how we used to do in Aura and how we do it in LWC. We'll compare that. Then rendering list, what are the ways of rendering list and what is the difference between Aura and LWC. We'll talk about that. Then what is slots? This is something new. So no, but the name has changed. This is not new. You have already used this in your Aura components. So we'll look into this. What is slots? How to use them? And then the best part of the session is template switching. What is template switching? How can we do that? What are the use cases? So we'll discuss something about that. So let's start. Oh, wait. Let's quickly have a recap what we did in our last session. So in our last session, we discussed the differences between Lightning web components and Aura framework. What are the differences? So the performance difference and all. Then we looked into the data binding, the first section, how we bind data into Lightning Web Components. So let's quickly start. So our first topic today is conditional rendering. So if you remember how we used to do in Aura components, we used to have Aura logic where we used to set Aura if and Aura else. In set we used to say, okay, this is the else section and this is my if section. If my condition is meeting in if, then display that section. If it is not, then display this else section. So we do not have something kind of this in LWC. So what we have is if colon true and if colon false. So you can see this last point. So this is the syntax which we have in LWC. So we have if colon true equals to, and we pass the parameter. If parameter is truthy, it will display that section. And if colon false equals to the parameter, if parameter is falsy, then that section will be displayed. So it will say, okay, when to display my section, whether it is true or false. Okay. Then if colon true equals to parameter, and it will only be a parameter, it will not be an expression, complete expression or logical expression. Our complete logic will go into JS controller. As in LWC, we do not encourage or we do not have feature to write our expressions, long expressions where we used to say, okay, my name not null and length greater than 2 or something kind of this. So all these conditions that you want to write, you have to write in your JS controllers. You cannot write them in your templates. So our template is free of logics. Why we are moving this to our controller? So the best part is whatever we have written in our JS files, we can use one of the JS test frameworks and write test cases on that so that we can execute and test whether it is working fine or not. And the best part is that can be automatically tested. So whenever we are deploying it to different sandboxes or different environments, we can run our automated test and check whether our code and everything is fine in that org when after deployment or not. Same way, like we have in our Apex classes, we have test classes. Same way we can use one of the testing frameworks, JS testing frameworks, to do that. And so we'll see in our demo how we use if true. And the best part is all the tags that you use in your Lightning Web Component can have this if colon true or if colon false, which will say, okay, display my this. Suppose we have created a div. So whether to display that div or not, we can directly write it on our div element tag. We do not need to create a separate tag to write the condition. Okay, moving to the next slide. Next slide talks about our demo. So let's quickly go to our demo, the best part. Okay, so I have landed to my Visual Studio Code. You can see So if you're aware, like if you have seen my first video in that I use this first component for the demoing purpose, I'm using same component. If you have not seen the first video, please go back and see. There you will understand how we do data mining and all. Okay, so this section I have written for conditionally displaying my greetings depending on whatever first name last name I enter. So we'll see how it works. Let me uncomment this. I'll comment this greeting. Okay, now understand. So what I'm saying, if my get greeting, this is one of my function written in my JS controller. Let's have a look at that. So this is my that get function. So this getter, what this getter does is this checks my first name is blank, then return blank. Otherwise return hey, whatever is my first name. Okay, so that means whenever my first name will be blank, this will send a blank to my front end, which is a falsy statement. Okay, so when it is a falsy, what will happen? It will say, okay, falsy. So if colon true equals to false, which is a falsy condition, so this will not be displayed. Whereas if this says if false equals to get greeting, and if get greeting is getting false, then the condition is matching and it will display please enter your name. And if it has my first name populated, it will say okay, if it has some first name which is a truthy condition, so true, that means display my greeting. So let's push my code to my scratch org and see how it works. Okay, successfully deployed. Let's go to my browser. Loading. Load. Yes, loaded. Okay. So in this component, I was using first component and first parent component. This Ohana was coming from my parent component by default on load. So we'll see, okay, whatever I change is displayed here, which is my truthy condition. Let me remove all the characters and see what happens. Okay, when I removed all the characters, it says please enter your name. Otherwise, whatever I am putting, it says hey Andy. So see how it works. Whenever it was blank, it is a falsy condition, it displays please enter your name. It says please enter your name. And whenever it has value, it displays my greeting. Same, this, I could have used any tag for displaying this. So I could have used a span tag, and I could have said if my greeting is true, then display this. We'll say yes, we have a first name. Let's save this, push this code to our org and see what happens. So ideally, whenever this is true, this should display, first it will display the greeting, after that it should say yes, we have a first name. Okay, so our code is deployed. Let's go back to our org and see whether it is working or not. It's loading. Yes, it worked. See, it says greeting, and then after that it says yes, we have a first name. If I remove this first name, it should go away. Yes, it has gone away. If I'm putting something, it is saying my greeting, it is displaying my greeting, and yes, we have a first name. If I am making it blank, it says please enter your first name. So this way you can have a conditional rendering of your templates. If you don't want to put a parent tag like a span tag or something, you can directly use template. And if you want to put a tag, you can directly use on that particular tag, whichever you are putting. Okay, let's move ahead. So demo conditional rendering is done. Let's move ahead and see next topic is rendering list. How can we render list? So there are two ways of rendering list in LWC. First is for each and the second is iterator. Mostly like both are same, only the difference is your iterator tells, so there is an attribute first and last. So whenever so this attribute is only present with the iterator. It says okay, whenever is the first element, that attribute comes as true. So suppose you want to display some line or a header or a border at the starting, you can say okay, at the start before the list display that line, and at the end display that line. So this way only this additional feature is there in iterator, whereas rest everything is same between for each and iterator. So for iterating in Aura, we used to have Aura iteration. So it is similar to that. Let's go to our demo and see how it works. So we are done with this code. Let me comment out this again so that I can show you iteration. So to save time, I've already written the code. It's just like I have to pull that code up. Yes, it's there. So what I have done in my code, I have created a button which says add, and I'm calling this handle click on the button. And if we'll see what happens on my button click, let's go. So my handle click says whenever this button is clicked in my name list, just populate, like create one more record, add one more record. So what is my name list? So if you can see here, I have created a name list which is of type array, and I have used @track attribute. So whenever anything is changing, any attribute is changing in this, it will be reflected back to my front end by re-rendering the template. So what this says, handle click says, whenever this button is clicked, please push one more record to my list. So what is this record? It has three attributes: an ID attribute, first name and last name. First name and last name are two attributes here. So this is my last name and this is my first name. And ID, I am just using the, like if it is the first element of the list, just put 1, 2, 3, 4 going forward. So this way I am putting the IDs. So IDs is important. So wherever like something is changing in that list, so iterator or for each uses that ID to figure out, okay, my fourth element change or my fourth record change, please update that fourth record. So this way it is faster. It is not re-rendering the complete list. It is only picking out the particular record row, you can say row, and replacing that. So that's why key is mandatory here. We'll see how this ID is used as a key in our front end. So let's go back. So we are good with button. Then I have this template which says if true has rows. What is has rows? Has rows is a getter which says if my name list dot length is greater than 0, then return true, otherwise false. So my table will only be displayed when this name list has some records, otherwise it will not be displayed. To handle that, I've created this has rows getter and put a template. Inside this template, I have 3 columns, 3 table headers, which says, let me uncomment this code first. So this is my template for each. So just focus on the syntax. For colon each and provide the list. Okay. When we are iterating, what we have to call our each item, we are saying contact, for colon item equals to contact, and what will be the index number. So if you want to display, like it also can show you like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these are my sequence numbers or serial numbers. So you can leverage this also. And whatever child components or child elements are there in your iterator, you have met key attribute is mandatory on those elements, the top elements under the iterator or for each. Okay, key is mandatory. So the id that I created in my name list, I'm using it here as a key. And then in the 3 columns, I'm showing the value. So let's see how it works. Control P, let me push my code. Code is getting pushed. Deploy, deploy, deploy. What happened? It's taking time. My net has slow, I guess. Can we quickly deploy? Let me try to push again. Yes, this got deployed. Perfect. Let me refresh my screen. Yes, it got refreshed, and now we can see add. So we can see Andy 1. Yes, the table has appeared. So first record added in my name list, and then my table started appearing here. I say Andy 2. See, it is coming, Andy 3. So this way it keeps on populating and displaying. Okay. So this is the way how to display a list using for each. So now we'll go back and see iterator. I also have a code for iterator. Let me comment out this and see how iterator works. Let me uncomment iterator. So in iterator, so see the comparison. If you see the for each, same way iterator colon iterator name, any name that you want to give, you can just give that name and provide the list. So we had 2 attributes here, for each provide the list, and then for item provide the item name, whereas this is combined into one, which is iterator colon iterator name equals to whatever is the list. Okay, then if you see, so same way key is mandatory for all the top level elements. So we have 3 top level elements here. So one is my this tr table row, which has this key, then this center tr, which has once again the key, and then my last tr, which also has a key. So key is mandatory for all the top level elements inside the iterator. Okay, now what I'm trying to say is, see, I told you we have 2 attributes, which is first and last, which tells like which comes as true whenever there is a first element, this will come as true. Whenever it is the last element of the list, it will come as true. Okay, so what I'm trying to do here is I'm saying tr with the tds call span 3. Okay, call span 3 will combine all my 3 cells, and in that I'm saying, okay, this is the background color, text align center, although I'm not putting it, I was putting some text here before, and then height is 2 pixels. So this will just create a line of height 2 pixel, which is of color blue. Then I am saying for every row, just add these values to the table, add these columns. So contact, so see how we pull out the values here. So from the iterator name, value will contain all our records. Okay, and the first and last, these are the 3 attributes. So from value we can pull our different attributes of that record. So id, first name and last name. So this way we can pull out, and then last and first are directly available in the iterator with the help of iterator name. Let's push this code and see how it works. Yes, code is pushed. Let's refresh our screen. It's refreshing. Refresh. Okay. Now we say Andy one. See, my header came. Before my header, this blue line came. Let's see how it came. If we again go back to this was contact.first. Whenever there is a first, just create a row with call span 3, height as 2 pixel, and background blue. So all those, it's a row of a table, but it appears as a line, a border line. So this blue is one of the rows of our table. Okay. Same way at the end you can see black. So my this says contact.last. So for at the end it was last black. So it is appearing as a border. So let's try adding one more element, see what happens. Yes, this remains at last. So this way we can put something like, if you want to have something like highlight first row, highlight last row, or add a footer after last row or something, or add a header before first row, something kind of that. If you want to do in your list, you can leverage these two attributes, first and last, to do that. You can conditionally render that element and handle that first and last. So these are the two differences between for each and iterator. So as compared to Aura, the best thing is our processing speed, which is good. So our performance is good, for which LWC is known for. So it's very nice. So we have seen this. Let's go. So you can see one more commented code here. So let's see what is there in our slide. Then we'll come back and see how to use slots and what are slots. So demo rendering list done. So now slots. What are slots? So if you have worked on Aura framework, if you are aware of facets, so same thing we have in LWC, which is known as slots. So what is slots? If you're not aware about facets, let's deep dive into slots. What are slots? Slots provide an ability to inject HTML into a Lightning Web component as part of its template. So if you have created a component and in the middle of that component somewhere you want to like get some HTML inside that component dynamically, which you want, like your parent component should set or something out of that, then you can leverage slots. Okay, then wherever you are putting slots, in that slots you can define default values as well. Like if your parent is not setting anything into slots, so whatever default value you have set into your slots, which will be visible. So we have two types of slots. One is default slot and one is named slot. So default slots can be multiple. So we'll see. Let's deep dive into our code and see how it works. So just talking about theory is not good. So when we look into the code, it's better to understand. So you can see my two lines, line number 51 and 52. So 51 is slot, then I'm saying body, then slot element end. And the next line you can see same thing with a name. So this is a named slot, whereas this is a default slot. So we can have multiple default slots, whereas named slot is specific. Okay, so from like, you can understand, like when a value is getting provided or HTML is getting provided from your parent component, if it says okay for a particular name, just go and render that HTML into the particular name slot. If it says default, just go and render into default. So like I can have, like I have, if I'm creating a reusable component, suppose for modal, so we have different things like header, footer, body. Okay, so we can create three slots there. Body we can have as a default one, whereas header and footer we can have as a name slot. So we can say slot name equals to header, slot name equals to footer, and then when we are leveraging that modal component into one of our any of parent component, wherever we are leveraging that, we can say, okay, I want to set in my header as this is the my heading. Please set that HTML into my header section. In my footer, a slot is there. Just go and put this HTML into my footer section. And whatever is there without named slot, just put in my body section of my model. So let's see. So this is my child component, the first component, and we'll see how we are putting the value here. So let me go to my first component parent. So this is my component, first component, which I have put into my first component parent. So I'll uncomment this. So what I'm saying, first thing, let it be commented only. I'll not uncomment it. Oops. Yes. Let it be commented. So this way we can set, okay, span tag. So what, and another span tag with a slot equals to a name. So whatever is there without a slot name will go into default one, whereas any element which is declared inside this component with a slot name will go into that particular slot name. So let's deploy this. So I'm deploying, I've uncommented this code, okay, whereas this code is still commented. So we'll see what happens. What is getting displayed. So yes, you can see a body here and a footer here. From where it is coming? It is coming from here. So we have, by default, we have set body, we have set footer. Let me add a break line here also. Okay, we have set body and we have set footer. As this was not defined from my parent, so whatever my default text was is like what I've set in my as a default text is displayed. I can leave it blank also. It's totally depends on your scenario which you are building. Okay. Sorry. Then I'll say, okay, I want to pass a value to my slots from my parent component. Okay, I'm uncommenting this code, save my component, will push to my scratch hog. So now I have said, okay, blank it out, or let me call it something. Let me call default value from parent. We'll call default footer from parent. Okay, I'll save this. Let me push to my scratch hog again. Pushed. Let me go to my browser and see. So what happens to this body and footer? So ideally, whatever as I have passed the values, see, as I have passed the values from parent, it got overridden, and like the default values got overridden and the values from the parent were displayed. So this way you can create a reusable component wherever you want. You can add the HTML inside that wherever you are leveraging. So that's it for slots. I guess it's clear. It's very helpful, like when you're using building a reusable components, that is very helpful. Like you want to expose some of your data or some of your sections which can be set by your parent components or any component where you are putting your reusable components. So you can leverage slots and put the values from the parent and set the values. It's very useful. Let's go back to our slide. Good with slots. Demo slot, so it's already done. Let's move to our next slide. Next slide is on template switching. What is template switching? So the best part, a component can have multiple templates. Okay, we can leverage lifecycle hooks to conditionally render templates. Help us separating complex UI into a separate templates. What is that? Let's look into the code. What is that and how it works? So my next slide says demo template switching. Yes, I'm demoing. Let's go here to my first component. Let me close this. My first component. If you see this first component, it has two HTML files. One is first component and the other is list display. Okay, what it says? What is list display? List display has my table, okay, in which I'm iterating over my name list and displaying the table. Okay, but how to display this HTML file? Because this is the default one, it will display a default template. Let's see how we can do it. So there are life hooks, life cycle hooks. So a component goes through a life cycle to get rendered on the screen. So one of the stage is rendering. Okay, so one of the hooks is render. We'll talk about it when we look into the life cycle, component life cycle. So we'll just focus for now on the render. So this is one of the life cycle hook. What it says is, before rendering, it will come into this method will be called. What it will say, if this dot has rows, so has rows was my this getter, which says, okay, if it is the length of the name list is greater than 0, then return true. So if this is true, return list display, otherwise return first component. Okay, what is list display? Let's check. So I have imported two things here. So import first component from this my HTML file. It says, okay, this is referring to my HTML like first component, and the other is referring to my list display HTML file. So here I am saying, okay, when has rows is true, display my list in a separate file. If it is false, just display my first component. Let's deploy this and understand how it works. So what I was doing, our button is already there. Whenever we click on this button, a record is added to the list. So ideally, after that, displaying this complete form and then list, I'll only show the list. So let's go back. Code is deployed and we'll see how it works. Okay, let me try Andy. Yeah. So ideally what should happen? Before, what was happening, a list was getting displayed here. Now see what will happen when I click on this. So this should go away and my second template should be visible, which has only my table at. So see, now only this thing is there. Background is not coming because we have not added lightning card and all, but that whole component, whole template has gone and only my table is visible now. So how this is helpful? So any kind of scenario where you are having like you are creating an create model or an update model for any of the objects or records, you can say, okay, I have a component, my default template is for entering the values for when you're going to create a record. Whenever I say confirm, I'll fire a DML operation, try to insert it. When it's inserted, we'll check the status. Okay, if insert is true. Now I want to show to the user, okay, on that modal screen only, your record with this name has been inserted with a check mark. So that is a different screen that you have to show on that particular different not screen, a different UI that you want to show in that specific model. So then you can leverage same thing. You can create a second template and that just show success or a failure ones. Like if it is a success, just put a tick. If it is a failure, show a cross. So we have a big SLDS icons library. You can refer to that for adding those icons, and then you can say, okay, your record was successfully saved, or we have seen an error while saving a record. Please fix the errors or something kind of that. You can show in that. So whenever like status changes, you can quickly flip the template and display the confirmation screen. So ideally you are saving, like you do not need to create one more component, or you do not need to like add complex logic into your same template. So you can easily create a second template and leverage that scenario. This is pretty helpful. Let's move and see what's next. Okay, so this was it for this session. Thank you for attending this. So our next session will be focusing on styling. How can we style? What are things are there which we can use to style our Lightning Web Components? What all things are supported? Thank you for attending this session. If this was helpful, please subscribe and like the videos. We'll keep on posting. This keeps us motivated to post these videos. Thank you. Going ahead, there are a lot of things in LWC. It is very cool, trending, and so my team is working on that, and it is, as per them, it is a lot easy to work on LWC. When like we worked on Visual first, then we moved into Aura, and now we are using LWC. So compared all these things, LWC is very simple and very quick. So why not? Why not to use this? Yes, we'll keep on posting videos. Thank you. Thanks a lot.